You walk into a room and nobody notices. Not because you're invisible, because you're irrelevant. You've been told your whole life that presence is about speaking up. Talk more, be louder, assert yourself. So you perform. You fill silences with words nobody asked for. You laugh a little too fast. You explain yourself when nobody questioned you. And every single time, you walk away feeling smaller than when you entered. Here's what nobody told you. The loudest person in the room is almost never the most powerful. They're the most desperate. Machiavelli watched princes fall. He watched generals lose empires. He watched brilliant men get outmaneuvered by quieter, colder, more deliberate ones. He understood something brutal. Power doesn't announce itself. Power makes you feel it, without explanation. The men who controlled rooms, courts, councils, battlefields, they didn't dominate through volume. They dominated through presence engineering. When was the last time someone walked into a room and the entire energy shifted before they had said a single word? That is what we are building today. Your inability to command silence is not a personality flaw. It is a strategic error. You have been optimizing for the wrong signal. Noise is not power. Stillness is. And silence, deployed correctly, is the most dangerous weapon in any social arsenal. Today, you are going to master 5 principles of invisible presence. Principle 1, the Predator Stillness Protocol. Principle 2, strategic vacancy. How to make people fill your silence with meaning. Principle 3, I architecture. The geometry of dominance without aggression. Principle 4, the delayed reaction. Why slow responses signal supreme authority. Principle 5, exit supremacy. Why how you leave controls how long they think about you. Stay until Principle 5. Most people focus obsessively on how they enter a room. The real power move happens on the way out. See Principle 1. The Predator Stillness Protocol. Watch a lion at rest. It doesn't pace. It doesn't fidget. It doesn't scan the room anxiously hoping someone acknowledges it. It occupies space. Its body communicates one thing and one thing only. I have already decided I belong here, now watch the hyena. Nervous energy, constant micro-movements, eyes darting, seeking permission in every glance. Here is a brutal truth about human psychology. People read stillness as competence, not because still people are always competent, but because the brain pattern matches calm to control. When you are still genuinely, deliberately, unnervingly still, you trigger a primitive threat assessment in everyone around you. Their nervous system asks, why isn't this person anxious? And because they don't have an answer, they invent one. They assume you know something they don't. This is information asymmetry operating in your favor, without a single word exchanged. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Most people misread that line. They think it's about aggression, intimidation, or threatening people. It's not. It's about making people uncertain about your reaction. Fear, in the Machiavellian sense, is not terror. It is unpredictability with consequences. When you are unnervingly still, people become uncertain about you, and uncertainty breeds involuntary respect. To deploy the Stillness Protocol, execute 3 steps. 1. Asterisk the entry pause. When you enter a room, stop moving for 3 full seconds before you do anything else. Don't look for a seat. Don't check your phone. Don't smile apologetically at strangers. Stand, breathe, survey. 3 seconds feels like an eternity to you. To everyone else, it reads as ownership. Point 2. Asterisk eliminate micro-movements. No bouncing leg, no tapping fingers, no adjusting your clothes repeatedly. Every involuntary movement is a signal that says, I am uncomfortable and I need your approval to feel better. Cut that signal. 3. Asterisk become architecture. Asterisk plant your body like a structure, not a visitor. Feet shoulder width, weight distributed, back straight without rigidity. You are not a guest in this space. You are architecture. Practice this in low-stakes environments first. A coffee shop, a waiting room, a hallway between meetings. Train your nervous system to interpret stillness as safety, not danger. Right now, your body is wired to move when it's anxious. You are going to rewire it to stop. Most people can't hold stillness because they are running from their own shadow. Carl Jung identified the shadow as the parts of yourself you've suppressed. The anger, the coldness, the contempt that you've been told are unacceptable. So you perform warmth, you perform enthusiasm, you perform approachability, you exhaust yourself manufacturing a version of yourself that needs constant social validation. Stillness terrifies you because stillness removes the performance. And without the performance, you don't know who you are. Shadow integration means accepting every part of yourself as data, not as a moral verdict. Your coldness is not cruelty, it is precision. Your silence is not weakness, it is economy of expression. When you stop apologizing for your natural state, your body stops apologizing through micro-movements. That is when your presence becomes genuinely felt. Sit. Principle 2. Strategic vacancy. The art of loaded silence. Silence is not empty. Silence is a container, and the person who controls the container controls what gets poured into it. Watch what happens in any conversation when someone goes genuinely quiet after a provocative statement. The other person fills the silence. They explain themselves. They justify. They backpedal. They overshare. Your silence becomes their confession booth. This is covert contract dynamics operating in reverse. A covert contract is an unspoken social agreement. Typically, I will perform for you and you will approve of me. When you break that contract, when you refuse to perform, when you sit inside your silence without anxiety, the other person experiences cognitive dissonance. Their brain expected a reciprocal signal. You didn't send one. The human brain cannot tolerate unresolved ambiguity, so it resolves it. Urgently, verbally, compulsively. Abraham Lincoln was famously described by contemporaries as a man whose silences were more commanding than most men's speeches. He would sit in council meetings, generals arguing strategy, cabinet members clashing, and he would say nothing for long stretches. Not because he had nothing to say, but because he understood that the man who speaks last and least is always presumed to be thinking deepest. Machiavelli observed the same pattern in the courts of Renaissance Italy. The advisors who lasted, who survived regime changes and maintained influence across shifting alliances, were not the most eloquent. They were the most economical. They treated words like currency, understanding that a man who spends his words freely is a man who has already revealed his poverty to weaponize strategic vacancy. Asterisk, the 3-second hold. After someone makes a statement, particularly one that expects immediate agreement, pause for 3 full seconds before responding. Don't fill the pause with or yeah or interesting. Just hold it. Watch what they do. In 70% of cases, they will either clarify, soften, or contradict what they just said. You learn more by saying nothing than you ever could by asking 10 questions. Asterisk the single question rule. Ask a single question and then go completely silent. Not, what do you think and how does that work? And why did you decide that? Just one question, then silence. The person who holds the fewest questions holds the most power. Asterisk starve the challenge. When someone challenges you directly, provocatively, or socially, do not defend. Pause. Hold eye contact. Say nothing for a full beat longer than feels comfortable. Most challenges dissolve in their own silence. The challenger expected resistance, which validates the attack. Your silence starves it, but beware the shadow side of this principle. Strategic vacancy can easily become avoidance. If you deploy silence because you are afraid of conflict, that is not power, that is paralysis wearing a mask. The difference is entirely internal. Power silence comes from a place of choice. Anxious silence comes from a place of fear. Your body broadcasts that distinction, and people feel it even when they can't articulate it. Before you use silence as a strategy, ask yourself, am I choosing this silence or am I hiding in it? That is the surgical self-examination that separates the tactician from the coward. Principle 3. Eye architecture. The geometry of dominancy eyes are not just expressive organs, they are instruments of territorial claim. Every culture on Earth, across thousands of years of social evolution, has used eye contact as the primary mechanism for establishing hierarchy before a single word is spoken, before a handshake, or before a title is introduced. The eyes establish who is predator and who is prey, and most people are losing this exchange before they even realize it's happening. Look at the anatomy of a defeated gaze. You make contact, hold it for a fraction of a second, and then you look down. Not sideways, down. That microsecond downward break reads as submission to the social animal brain of every person in that room. You have just handed over territorial authority without a negotiation. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be both a lion and a fox. In eye architecture, the lion and the fox deploy different gazes. The lion gaze is direct, steady and unhurried. It does not seek permission. It does not flicker with anxiety. It says, "I see you and I am not threatened by what I see." The fox gaze is softer but more strategic. It observes from peripheral angles, appearing to be elsewhere while seeing everything. The fox gaze creates mystery, making people feel watched without being able to catch you watching. Both are power positions. The mistake most people make is deploying neither. Instead, they deploy the puppy gaze, seeking warmth, approval, and validation from every glance. Kill the puppy gaze. Master the geometry of dominance with these tactics. The triangle technique. When speaking with someone, rotate your gaze slowly, between their left eye, their right eye, and their mouth. This triangle of attention reads as intense, focused attention without the naked aggression of an unbroken stare. It signals that they have your complete focus, making them feel simultaneously seen and slightly off balance. That combination is magnetic. Break sideways, never down. When you need to look away, look to the side, toward a thought, a space, an internal calculation. Looking sideways signals that you are thinking. Looking down signals that you are submitting. This small physical adjustment rewires how every room reads your confidence. The delayed blink. Blink less than the person you are speaking with. Not aggressively, not like a staring contest. Just slightly less, slightly slower. Blinking frequently signals anxiety and emotional volatility. Slow, deliberate blinking signals regulation, calm, and control. The person who blinks less is almost always perceived as more dominant. This is evolutionary biology deployed with intention. So, Principle 4, the delayed reaction. Why slow responses signal supreme authority. Speed is not power. Speed is anxiety. Think about every time you reacted too fast. Someone said something provocative, and you fired back instantly. Someone asked you a question, and you answered before they finished asking it. Someone challenged you, and your defense came out so quickly it sounded rehearsed. In every one of those moments, you signaled the exact same thing. Your words have the power to move me immediately, and that means they have power over you. The person who controls their reaction time controls the emotional temperature of every interaction. Machiavelli's coldest observation on human behavior stands true. Men judge by the eye rather than the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel. What people see in you is your reaction, not your intention, your intelligence, or your inner world, your reaction. And when your reaction is slow, measured, and surgical, they see a person who cannot be rattled. A person who cannot be rattled cannot be manipulated. And a person who cannot be manipulated is dangerous. Danger, calibrated, implied, never stated, is the foundation of sustainable authority. When you delay your reaction, a powerful biological mechanism triggers in the other person's nervous system. Their brain sends a signal, stimulus, expect response. When the response doesn't come immediately, the brain escalates, releasing a microdose of cortisol. the stress hormone. The person becomes slightly more anxious, more alert, and more focused on you. You haven't done anything. You have simply refused to satisfy an expectation on their timeline. That small, controlled withholding shifts the neurochemical balance of the conversation in your favor. This is how silence becomes a biological weapon. Deploy the delayed reaction using these protocols. Asterisk the one breath rule. In any exchange, before you respond to anything, take one deliberate, internal breath, 2 seconds maximum. This gives your prefrontal cortex time to override your amygdala's first draft response, signals to the other person that you are not reactive, and gives you 2 seconds to choose whether you even want to engage at all. Asterisk, let provocations expire. Not every challenge requires a response. In fact, the most powerful response to many provocations is none. When someone makes a provocative statement, waiting for you to react, and you simply don't, you force them into a position where their own aggression becomes embarrassing. They threw a punch, you stepped aside. Now they're off balance, wondering why their attack generated no reaction. That is when they start respecting you. Asterisk, slow your digital timeline. This is modern warfare, and most people are losing it unconsciously. When someone texts you something that triggers an emotional response, wait. Not for days to play manipulative games, but long enough that your response comes from choice, not compulsion. The person who always responds within 30 seconds telegraphs availability, anxiety, and a desperate need for resolution. The person who responds when they are ready telegraphs something else entirely. Remember the critical distinction. Tactical delay is a choice made from a position of strength. Chronic avoidance is a fear response wearing the costume of strategy. If you are delaying because you don't know what to say, that is paralysis. If you are delaying because you are choosing the right moment to say it, that is surgery. The difference lives in your internal state, and your internal state is always visible to people with high emotional intelligence. Train the internal state first. The tactics follow naturally. Say Principle 5. Exit Supremacy. How you leave controls. How long they think about you. Neuroscience has confirmed what Machiavelli knew intuitively. The human brain doesn't remember experiences evenly. It remembers peaks, the most intense moments, and it remembers endings. This is the peak-end rule, and it means that how you end any interaction, any conversation, or any meeting is disproportionately weighted in how people remember you. Most people get this backwards. They invest everything in the entrance. They walk in with energy, handshakes, names, jokes, and demonstrations of warmth. And then they leak out. They linger. They say goodbye 4 times. They stand half out of the door still talking. They are announcing behaviorally, without words, that they don't want the interaction to end, and that announces dependency. You need this room more than this room needs. You exit supremacy is the art of leaving before the room is ready for you to go. The most powerful figures in Renaissance courts understood scarcity instinctively. They did not attend every gathering. When they appeared, it was deliberate, purposeful, and limited. And when they left cleanly, without ceremony or over-explanation. Their departure created an absence that people felt. Because presence that is always available loses its value. Presence that is withdrawn deliberately becomes something people want to recover. This is not cruelty, it is economics. Scarcity drives value in social currency as much as in any other market. To execute exit supremacy. Asterisk. Leave at the high point. Do not wait until the conversation is dying, or when you sense someone is about to wrap things up. Leave when the energy is highest, when the exchange has just peaked, right after you've said something that landed perfectly. That is the moment you stand up, extend the handshake, and go. You leave them wanting more of a conversation that was going exceptionally well. That slight incompletion is the psychological anchor that makes people think of you long after you're gone. Asterisk the clean exit. One goodbye, maybe 2 words of closing. Then move. No lingering. No anyway. I should let you get back to it. No apologetic over-explanation of your departure. You are not excusing yourself from the room. You are simply done. An apologetic exit signals, I hope it's okay that I'm leaving. A clean exit signals, I have somewhere more important to be. You always have somewhere more important to be, even if that somewhere is just your own deliberate solitude. Asterisk, the final second redirect. Asterisk, as you are leaving, turn back once briefly. Make one final observation, ask one final question, or leave one final image. Something short and sharp that opens a loop they will spend the next several hours wanting to close. For example, think about what you said earlier about the third option. I think you're onto something important. Then leave. You've just placed a thought in their mind that they will carry out of the room with them, and it has your name on it. Say, the invisible architecture of power. You came here, believing presence was about volume, performance, and personality, about saying the right thing at the right time. You were wrong, and that error has been costing you rooms, negotiations, opportunities, and respect. Let's rebuild the architecture. Predator stillness tells every nervous system in the room, I have already decided I belong here. Strategic vacancy turns your silence into a container that other people fill on your terms. I architecture establishes territorial authority before a single word is exchanged. The delayed reaction signals that their words do not have the power to move you on their timeline. Exit supremacy ensures that the last data point the room records about you is departure on your terms. None of these principles require you to be louder. None of them require you to be more charismatic. None of them require you to become someone you are not. They require you to stop becoming someone you are not. Stop performing. Stop seeking. Stop apologizing for your natural occupancy of space. The invisible man is not absent. He is everywhere, saying nothing. Here is the hard truth about what happens if you change nothing. You walk back into rooms and continue leaking energy into spaces that don't deserve it. You continue filling silences that were never yours to fill. You continue reacting at someone else's tempo, exiting on someone else's schedule, and looking down when the exchange gets uncomfortable. And the wolves in those rooms, and there are always wolves, will continue reading you exactly as they always have, as someone who can be moved, someone who needs the room's approval to feel legitimate, and someone who speaks to fill the silence rather than to change it. That is the identity that follows you into every negotiation, every relationship, and every social dynamic you will ever navigate. Or you apply one principle, just one. This week, in the next room you walk into, stop for 3 seconds, plant your body, hold your gaze, feel, for the first time, what it is to occupy a space rather than apologize for existing in it. That one experience will change how you understand presence permanently. If this shifted something in how you think about power, subscribe, not to support a channel, but because the next strategy goes deeper into Machiavellian sovereignty, and you need what comes next. We dissect a different principle of dark psychology regularly, and the people here are not passive viewers. They are students of power. If you watched until this point, you already know which category you belong in. Drop *sovereign in the comments below, not because it's a ritual, but because it marks the moment you chose to transform instead of merely consume. The choice is yours. Show me.